Hi, I'm Sam from Interface. We're Bitrix24 Gold Partners. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through an introduction first of all. So I'm Sam Connor, Sales Manager here at Interface, and we are Bitrix24 Gold Partners. And we're based here in the UK, we're in the US and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help to analyze your requirements, see if Bitrix24 could potentially be a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. If it is, we can then implement the Bitrix24 system into your business so we can set up each module really exactly how the organization needs it to work. And if you're looking at the on-premise version of Bitrix, then we can provide you with our hosting service. And we also provide tailored training and ongoing tailored support to help businesses get the most possible value out of the Bitrix 24 system. Okay, so I guess first of all, just in case if anyone's joining today that is evaluating Bitrix and you're wanting to understand a bit more at a high level as to what Bitrix 24 actually is. Bitrix 24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools and modules that you can use to help you to manage the entire business. And there are now over 15 million businesses around the world that use the Bitrix 24 system. And it's available in both a cloud and self hosted solution. And when we say self hosted, we simply mean it's a private cloud version of Bitrix 24. And in terms of pricing, so prices start from approximately $49 per month for a cloud-based system. So that starts there on the basic cloud license, or the self-hosted starts at 3,590 US dollars, and that's for the first 12 months. And then in year two and ongoing annually, you'll pay a 50% renewal fee to continue to access the Bitrix24 self-hosted system. Okay, so today's webinar is total telephony. So we're going to start focusing in now on the telephony functionality within the Bitrix24 system. So first of all, why should we use Bitrix24 for telephony? Well, first of all, it has a built-in phone configurator. Okay, so we can start to use the Bitrix24 system very quickly using that built-in phone infrastructure. It's also possible to integrate with an existing PBX, and we have integration with the CRM, which is a really nice feature. And we'll take a look at this in more detail shortly. There are reporting features, so we can analyze call distribution. We can see all of the call statistics of the data within Bitrix24. And especially if you're going to be renting a Bitrix number, it's a very low cost to start to use an integrated phone system built into Bitrix24. Okay, and that brings us on then to look at the different options that we have available when it comes to telephony. So first of all, option one is Bitrix24 Telephony. So this option is when we are renting a Bitrix24 number directly from Bitrix24. So this will be a brand new number that you're renting. And we're going to take a look shortly at the options for renting a Bitrix24 number. Now, the key element here to bear in mind is this will be a brand new number. So if you're wanting to port an existing number, you don't have that option with this option one here. So this would be a new number that you're renting. So especially let's say if you're a new business and you're happy to use a new number, this is a great option for you. The second option is an integration. So if it's critical that you keep your existing phone number, or maybe you've got a really good call rate package with your provider, we'll look at the options for integration. Okay, so let's then take a look first at option one, which is the Bitrix24 telephony option. So we're going to see how we can rent a Bitrix24 number, see how we can set up the virtual phone system. Once we've done that, we'll see how this integrates with the CRM, and we'll take a look at the soft phone application. Okay, so let's jump into our Bitrix24 system. So what we're seeing here, I'm on an on-premise version of Bitrix, but the functionality we're going to look at here, it's exactly the same on the Bitrix24 cloud system. So first of all, to rent a Bitrix24 number, we need to go into the telephony module. So two options, you can either search in the universal search area for the telephony module, or you should be able to see it here in the left-hand side of your menu item. So we can click on there. Okay, and that opens up the telephony page. Now, just to explain before we go through this, I'm an administrator on this account. So I can access, I can configure all the settings for the telephony module here. But as an administrator, what you have the access to do here is to set access permissions. So if we come into the access permissions area, what we can do is we can create different roles in the system here. And for different user roles, we can then configure the settings for that user role within the telephony module. So let's say, for example, setting up the telephony settings that we're going to do today, we're denying access for the manager role. So we don't want them to have that level of access in the system. So you can configure the permissions. That's something really important to bear in mind. Okay, so let's take a look now at option one, which we talked about. So that's renting a Bitrix24 number. So if we click on the rent a number option, what we have here is the option to select the country that we would like to rent a number for. Okay, so first of all, we can select the country, we can choose the type of number, and then what we can do is we can select the locality. So if we're going to go for a local number here, I can then choose the region that we would like to rent that number for. So here we're renting a number in the area of Milton Keynes, and that's going to cost $6 per month to rent that number. Okay, so that's the ongoing monthly cost. Now, inbound calls are included in that monthly cost, so there's no additional cost there on the inbound calls. And outbound calls, they are charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. Okay, and the phone provider behind this infrastructure is Vox Implant. So here we can see the pricing page. So I'm just going to add this into our YouTube chat. Okay, so I'm just going to add this now into the YouTube chat window, so you can all reference that. Okay, so those are the costs when we're renting a number. Now, for some circumstances, there is an additional one-off setup cost as well. So if we go to Germany, you can see here, for example, there is a connection charge as well. So something to bear in mind, select the appropriate country, and you'll see here the breakdown of the costs. And you will see in a lot of countries, you have this verification process that you have to follow as well. So, for example, here in Germany, we need to upload a valid postal address documentation simply to show that we have a locality within the area that we're wanting to rent a number for. So you have to upload that verification documentation. And once you've done that, you can then top up your balance. So your balance will show here. You'll need to add a balance to be able to make calls. And there you have it. You have your rented number created and integrated into Bitrix24. So that is how easy it is to manage the setup of the renting of a number. Now, once we have rented that number, it's going to display inside the My Numbers section here. And this is where we can then start to create our virtual phone system. Okay, so for example, first of all, here on our UK number, we can set up our inbound call routing. So first of all, we can play some welcome music. If the call can't be answered, we can manage the ongoing call processing methodology. You can set up an IVR menu. Okay, so this is a integrated voice recognition menu. So for example, we might say, hello, press 1 for sales, or press 2 for support. So we can then essentially navigate the client who is calling in to select from the relevant options, and then they are going to be distributed to the correct area of the business. So we say there 1 for sales and 2 for support. So we set up our different groups here. So the sales team are in the sales group, the support team are in the support group. So it really allows for easy navigation of the client to the correct area of the business. So you're starting to improve the customer journey by setting up this IVR structure. Now, when we set up this method here for the text to speak, you can then select the language of how this voice gets relayed, this message gets relayed, what the voice is. You can choose the speed and you can choose the volume as well. So it's really customizable. Or the other option, you might want to record your own message that gets spoken to the client on the phone, so you can upload your own audio file. Okay, and then for those groups, you can see here we've got the call group configuration. So we can select the appropriate group. So let's say if I click on the sales group, I can then go into there and I can see all of the staff within our Bitrix system that we have associated to that specific group. So I can configure this and change who is available. I can analyze and actually configure how calls are distributed amongst that team as well. So you might say it evenly is spread out. It goes to anyone that is not in the actual engagement of answering a call, or it could just be distributed to everybody. Okay, so you've got lots of granular settings that you can configure within the configuration panel. Okay, then we can take a look at the CRM integration. So if a number that calls in is not registered, you might want to automatically create a lead. So that's a really useful feature. So you can enable that feature here in the system. And of course, if you want to record all of those calls, you can turn on here in the recording, turn on that call recording, and you can play a warning message to let the customer know that the calls will be recorded. So it's a really valuable way to ensure you have all of that call history synced and saved inside the Bitrix24 system. Okay, now you have the option here for transcribing, but you don't need to use that anymore. Now, with the AI integration of Copilot within Bitrix24, all calls that are recorded within Bitrix using the rented number, you can then use the Copilot system to have that call transcribed, and it also creates a call recording summary. So if you've had a really long conversation, you might want to have that call summarized in a really uniform format. So you can do that using the Copilot feature. And then we can set up our working hours. So you might have staff available to answer calls at a certain time parameter of the day. So you can select when those times are, when people are out of the office. And if there is an out of office, you can decide what that call processing functionality is. Okay, so here we might enable maybe forward to a specified number, someone who answers calls out of hours. You can customize this to your specific needs, and you can play an out of hours recorded message as well to let the customer know. So you can see there are a huge variety of configurations you can perform on the settings within the Bitrix24 system. So especially important is actually having the call recording within the CRM system, because if we now go into our CRM, it allows us to see all of that call history inside the client's record. So if we go into the contacts, we can click down to one of our contacts in the system. And within here, we can see the activity stream. So if we drill down here on the event area, I can then select within the system here all of the call history in here, and we can be able to see all of the call history inside the system here. And you're able to filter through all of this information, and we can click to call directly through the Bitrix CRM platform as well. So then that call will be saved in the system. So having that integration, it just allows a completely full connection of the CRM to have all of the communication and correspondence saved inside the system. Now, alongside this, we have a lot of call centers that use Bitrix24 using the integrated telephony features. So let's say here inside our lead database, we could select a group of leads here. And one option we have straight away is we can start dialing through that list. So that can now start that call list distribution, and we can start to call directly through the system. Or we could assign this as a call list to a specific user. So with the options we've got here, if we select an action, we could then assign this out as a call list to the relevant person. So we can schedule that bulk dialing, and then we can assign this to the relevant sales rep. So let's select the representative here, and we're going to assign this out. We can schedule when we want them to start that call list. And that's then going to be assigned as an activity in their calendar to call that group of users of leads. Now, what other functionality we have within the CRM for our leads is the robocall feature. So let's say if we've got to the looking good stage with our lead, then what we can do is we can set up a call to go to the client. Okay, so what we can do inside here, we can make a call. So again, it's very similar functionality here. So we have the option to select the number. We can select how we want this message to be relayed to the customer. So we can type out a message, and this will get relayed a bit like the IVR menu structure that we looked at earlier on. It's the text to speech to text functionality. Okay, so we can put that message in here. So what we're going to say here is as soon as the lead gets to the looking good stage, we're going to say if they are still at this stage in 2 days' time, we want to run this telephony automation. So it's going to call the lead, and if they answer that call, this message would get relayed to the customer on that phone call. So you can see there's lots of different ways, once we've integrated telephony, how it can be used and functional across the entire Bitrix24 system. Okay, so that is a look at the renting of a Bitrix24 number. But as we mentioned, there is another option. So if renting a number where we have a brand new number is not an option, if you have an existing number that the business has had for maybe a really long period of time, you don't want to lose access to that number, then an integration is what you would look at. Or maybe if you have a really competitive call package with your provider that you don't want to lose, again, that's why another reason you would want to integrate your existing phone number. And we have different options when it comes to integrations. So first of all, we have the Bitrix24 SIP connector. So we'll take a look at that shortly. There is also app integrations in the Bitrix24 marketplace. And if none of those options work, then there is the API, which we could use to build a bespoke integration for you. Okay, so the first option there is the SIP connector. So this allows you to connect your Office or Cloud PBX, so that's your private branch exchange, into Bitrix24. So let's take a look at this option first of all. So if we go back into our telephony module, so inside here, you have the Office and the Cloud PBX. So the option you select, of course, just simply depends on what type of PBX you have. If it's a local PBX or if it is a cloud PBX. So if we click on, let's say, the Office PBX here, this opens up a form area, so we can click on Connect Office PBX, and then we have a form with the credentials and information that we need to input into the form here. So you would input this information, you would then connect, and you have 60 minutes to test for free outbound calls to make sure the connection works correctly. When it does work correctly, you can then buy the SIP connector. And this will cost $49 per month for renting of that SIP connector to have your numbers fed into Bitrix24. It's exactly the same with the Cloud PBX option. The only difference is the criteria of information that you need to input into the form. It's slightly different with it being Cloud PBX. And again, the SIP connector, when you connect for the Cloud PBX, it again costs $49 per month for renting of the SIP connector. So that's the first option when we're looking at integrating numbers into Bitrix24. The second option is using the Bitrix24 marketplace. So this is where there are many third-party applications that allow you to integrate additional functionality into your Bitrix24 system. So here, when I search telephony, for example, there are lots of phone provider integrations such as 3CX, Twilio Telephony, Ring Central. So you have lots of different options in terms of phone providers that you can integrate. The one thing you need to make sure you check is if there is any minimum criteria with each application. So for example, on the Ring Central plan, you need to make sure you're on a commercial version of Bitrix24, and you need to check with Ring Central to make sure the Ring Central plan you have is a minimum plan to be able to use this integration. So that's the second option. Integrate with the third-party applications. If none of those options work, then the other alternative is for using the API available with Bitrix24. So we can use that to actually build a bespoke integration with your phone provider and with your infrastructure. Now, that could cost anywhere, say, between 10 to 20,000 US dollars. So it's more expensive than the out-the-box options with renting a number or using the SIP connector. But we have done this before, so if that's something of interest, you can contact us, sales@intraface.com. I'll just put our email address into the YouTube channel. There we go. So you can ask any questions to our team about that functionality as well. Okay, so that is a look at integrations. So if we just move on now to discuss the costs, because obviously we talked about quite a lot of different costs in today's webinar. So we have obviously the renting of a Bitrix number, so that will cost approximately $6 per month. Inbound calls are included in that rate, but you'll then be charged per minute based on the country you're calling to for outbound calls. And I've added the outbound call rates into the YouTube chat. If you're looking at the Bitrix SIP connector, that's going to cost $49 per month for integrating your existing phone lines, or there is the completely tailored and bespoke integration option, which could range between 10 to 20,000 US dollars. Okay, and then moving on to look at reporting. So if we're renting a Bitrix24 number, there's some really nice reporting features we have within Bitrix24. So we've seen how we can integrate phone calls into the CRM system in Bitrix. So all of the call details for every inbound or outbound phone call, that gets integrated here in the call details. So you'll see all of the history. You can customize the layout of this table of information. So you can change the layout. You can configure what date and points you'd like to display in this form. And you can filter down maybe into specific date ranges of calls in here. So it's easy to find that data. And you can also export this data out to Bitrix. And then we also have call statistics. So call statistics, this analyzes all of the call analysis data from the CRM data point. So we can see here all the performance scores. So the distribution of calls amongst our employees. We can look at the unanswered call density. So I think this is a really nice dashboard to analyze. We can see here how out of the time and working days when we're most likely to be missing phone calls. So I can see the call distribution when we answer calls most often. So you can see with the darker reds is where we're missing calls. So that's where we need to start prioritizing staffing for future reference. And then we have employee performance. So we can see the involvement of calls amongst our employees. We can see the call duration and the average call duration. So we can use this data to make really quick and sharp informed decisions moving forward for our teams that are making and receiving calls within Bitrix24. Okay, so that brings us to an end of today's Total Telephony Bitrix24 webinar. So in summary, we've seen how we can set up Bitrix as a virtual phone system very easily, making and receiving calls inside the system. We've also seen how we can integrate existing phone lines using the SIP connector or third-party applications. And we've seen how that phone infrastructure integrates seamlessly into the CRM. So we can see the call history, we can set up automated robocalls and call lists for our sales team. And as we just touched upon there, we've seen how we can then build out dashboard reports to analyze all of the call data within Bitrix24. And as we've seen, it's a very low starting cost point. If we're renting a Bitrix24 number, it starts from just $6 per month. So thank you very much for joining today. The recording will be on our YouTube channel, intraface.com. If you want to register for our up and coming webinars, you can do so at intraface.com/webinars. And here is a selection of those up and coming webinars, which I hope you're able to attend. We are here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, so thank you very much for joining today. And I look forward to seeing you all again in the very near future. Bye for now.